So with our Fowler that has the relief carving, the machine does a pretty good job, but there still is some irregularities that we take care of before the customer receives the stock. So we go over the carving and detail it a little bit, do a little bit of handwork on it. We'll probably refine the machining a little bit over time, so this handwork is hopefully minimized, but right now it does require a little work. It's something I do, so if you get a Fowler, you know that I've helped you go over the carving to make it real nice. So the first thing we do is I scrape the background a little bit along the carving to blend any tool lines, tool paths together, so you can see what happens here. So I'm just using a chisel as a scraper. And what it's doing is it's flattening the background out, smoothing it out, removing any irregularities, any machine marks. I'm not necessarily getting this 100% perfect. I'd say I'm getting it 95%, but my 95% is usually pretty good for most people. Now we'll do a little bit of filing here. Blending the machines from both sides and just kind of blending those areas together right here. Okay, now we'll turn the device a little bit and do a little more scraping.
So this is why the Fowlers, like we had a lot of orders on a couple days, and people are curious why we haven't just shipped them all, but they all need hands.
Yeah, the Fowler is one of the guns that it needs more attention, but more handwork. It's just for various reasons. There's various steps that require that additional handwork.
We just don't feel right leaving it for the customer because
some of it's a little tricky to do.
Yeah.
When you're not used to doing it, then it's hard to do. So each one of these, I go through this process.
So how many Fowlers a week do you think you're?
So right now, this week we'll probably get about between 30 and 35, I think, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
I think about closer to 35 probably. So that's why the Fowler costs a little more too, is there's added expense for handwork that's required on it. Just using a little riffler in this area. Sometimes works a little better.
Is that just to sharpen the edge, or are there machine marks?
It's defining it a little bit,
Okay.
defining this molding just a touch more. The way it's machined, this isn't defined quite as much as I'd like, and so it's sharpening up the transition or the molding. Just defining it a little bit better. Looks pretty good. We'll work towards the other side, constantly moving the light, as you can probably see, to try to try to. You want to make the carving always look, when you're cleaning up background, you want to make it look as bad as it can with the lights. You don't want to cast shadows and show all the little defects.
How often do you have to sharpen that chisel since you're sitting here, doing 30 some of these a week?
Yeah, I don't know, probably it'll stop cutting well. So maybe every 5 or 10 stalks, maybe.
Yeah.
But it'll definitely stop cutting well.
That's not really the normal use for a chisel, right?
No, not really, but for long rifle carving, it's fairly frequent that people use a chisel as a scraper. And this is even when I would be carving a long rifle by hand, using scraping the background with the chisel is a very common way to clean up the background. So this is a good technique to learn, and you can try to get sandpaper in the nooks and crannies, and it can work, but it's sometimes a little difficult. If you do use sandpaper, you want to try to back it. Some people like to use emery boards, and it can work, but they clog up fast. And scraping is a little bit better process, but there's nothing wrong with trying to sand if you're more comfortable with it. Okay, that's looking better. Then you have to see what you want to do too. So my vision isn't great anymore, but optivisors help a lot. Magnification lets you see what you're trying to accomplish. A little file work here to blend some tool paths. Some of this tool pathing, it's starting to be adjusted a little bit, but we're having a little trouble getting all these blends. Whenever you're doing machining like this, and you're using multiple tool paths to produce a feature, getting them to blend real well is sometimes a little difficult. If you notice too, I'm always moving the stock and moving the light in order to be able to see what I'm doing. You can't do good work if you can't see what you're doing. So you need to look and I'm not just moving it randomly. I'm looking at moving the chisel randomly. I'm looking at the tool marks, and I'm just trying to remove them. So relief carving in stock making, CNC stock making like we do, is pretty tricky. It's there's challenges with it. We're doing pretty good, and we're working to do more of it. Trying to figure out the best approach to get it machined as well as we can, so that we minimize this handwork.
Are you basically doing trial and error? Is there a place where you learned how to?
Yeah, we know what some of the difficulties are right now with it, so we're trying to figure out better ways. Some issues are with what's called our model of our part. There's some issues with it, and some of it also is the machining strategies and the capability of the machines. It's always a challenge to machine a 3D part and come at it from a bunch of different angles and get everything to blend and work together, you know. I usually just finish the background on all of them, a batch of them, and then I'll come back and do the next step. But I'll just show you this one complete. So I'm hitting this. The incise lines that it carved are a tiny bit deep. So I'm going to sand this down just a little bit, just to make it look a little better. This is just a wire brush, a very fine wire brush. I think it's 4 thousandths is what the diameters of the wires are. 0.1 millimeter, so about 4 thousandths. So one thing we do is we add chip cuts to this, which are very traditional in the design. So this design is pulled off an original fouling gun, export grade fouling gun that I showed in another video. Not super fancy, but still very attractive, very fitting for the grade of this gun. Now you see some people maybe want to put crazy leaves or have a bunch of foldovers, and you know, that's really wouldn't be appropriate for a fouling gun of this grade. So we try to be very traditional in our design. So these are chip cuts that you see a lot on carving work, American work, and as well. So I'm stabbing down, then I'll come back at an angle and take out a little chip there. And then I'm going to switch to a little different tool to make a little smaller chip. Okay, and then we're going to do 2 more chips up here. A little chip in front of it. Oops, that's right. Okay. And I'll usually hit that with a little bit of sandpaper just to tune it up a little bit. Doesn't look too bad, but it looks okay. Now, what I need to do is fix these volutes a little bit because the machining doesn't make them perfect right now. Something that we have a little problem with the model. So I'll come in here and tune up the shape a little bit. Find the right chisel here. And what I mean is the volute that doesn't really flow quite right with the carving. So I'll come in here and adjust things a little bit. Okay. The other side, then we'll scrape it a little bit, and this one will be actually done.
Not done with what you do before it goes out though, right?
Yeah, this little step of the carving will be done.
Oh, okay.
So there's still some more steps before this is ready to ship, but my task right now will be done. So we have other people that work on these too, but they do different jobs, and right now my job is to do this carving work. Okay, so then I usually turn this around, scrape it a little bit where I just carved. So you could adjust shapes slightly so they flow better and get into the background a little bit. Clean things up. Okay. So that's more or less what the carving will look like when you see it.
Thanks.